Welcome back to Echoes of the Nile, the podcast that unearths the hidden histories and incredible legacies of ancient Egypt. I'm your host, Alex Thorne, and today we're diving deep into a topic that promises intrigue, ambition, and a complete reevaluation of what we think we know about one of history's most fascinating civilizations. Our journey today is inspired by the compelling idea, from slave to pharaoh, incredible secret stories of ancient Egypt you must know. Music fades out. Now, that title, From Slave to Pharaoh, immediately sparks the imagination, doesn't it? It conjures images of epic rises against impossible odds, a true rags-to-riches narrative. But how literal was this path in ancient Egypt? Was it truly possible for someone born into bondage to ascend to the very pinnacle of power, to wear the double crown? And if not in the most literal sense, what does this phrase tell us about social mobility, ambition, and the surprising lives of the people who built this eternal empire? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of myth and popular culture to reveal the nuanced reality. We'll explore the unexpected avenues to power, the significant influence of non-royal figures, and some truly remarkable aspects of daily life that shed light on a society far more complex and dynamic than often portrayed. Let's start by addressing the core premise, the idea of slave to pharaoh. While a direct, literal ascent from chattel slavery to the throne of Egypt is virtually unheard of, the phrase serves as a powerful metaphor for something crucial: the possibility of significant social mobility and influence, even for those not born into the royal lineage. You see, the concept of slavery in ancient Egypt was quite different from the chattel slavery often depicted in later historical contexts. Many individuals categorized as slaves were actually prisoners of war, indentured servants working off debt, or even people who had sold themselves into temporary servitude to survive. Crucially, they often had rights, could own property, marry free Egyptians, and even gain their freedom. It wasn't a static, inescapable state for everyone. So, while no true slave likely donned the pharaoh's crown, ancient Egypt was a place where ambition, skill, and intellect could propel individuals of non-royal birth to positions of immense power, wealth, and lasting legacy. One of the most striking examples, and perhaps the closest ancient Egypt ever came to a commoner becoming a god, is Imhotep. Most people might not even know his name, but they know his work. Imhotep wasn't a pharaoh. He was a commoner, albeit one of exceptional talent. He served as vizier, chief minister, to King Djoser during the Third Dynasty around 2650 BC. But more famously, he was the architect of Djoser's step pyramid at Saqqara, the world's first monumental stone building and a groundbreaking feat of engineering. Think about that for a moment. Before Imhotep, royal tombs were simple mastabas, flat-roofed rectangular structures. Imhotep revolutionized architecture, creating a 6-tiered step pyramid that literally reached for the heavens. But his genius didn't stop there. He was also a physician of legendary skill, so renowned that centuries after his death, he was deified. Yes, a commoner, a non-royal, was worshipped as a god of medicine and healing, revered by Greeks and Egyptians alike long before Asclepius. Imhotep's story isn't one of a slave becoming a pharaoh, but it's the ultimate testament to how a brilliant mind, regardless of birth, could achieve eternal fame and divine status within Egyptian society. Beyond Imhotep, the avenues for social ascent were primarily through service to the state or the gods. The most prominent of these paths was the scribe. Literacy in ancient Egypt was a powerful tool, a gateway
opportunity. Scribes were not just writers, they were administrators, record keepers, tax collectors, architects, and engineers. They managed the state's vast resources, recorded its history, and designed its monuments. Being a scribe was a highly respected profession, a direct route to influence and prosperity. A young boy of humble origins, if he showed aptitude, could attend scribe school, learn to read and write hieroglyphs, a complex and beautiful script, and potentially rise through the ranks to become a high-ranking official, a vizier, even an advisor to the pharaoh himself. This wasn't slave to pharaoh, but it was peasant to powerful minister, a remarkable leap by any standard. Let's also consider the power of women in ancient Egypt, beyond the obvious queens like Cleopatra or Hatshepsut. While a woman wouldn't typically rise from slavery to Pharaoh, the societal structure allowed non-royal women to wield significant influence in ways that might surprise us. Women could own property, inherit land, conduct business, and even initiate legal proceedings. We have records of women serving as priestesses, temple administrators, and even supervising agricultural estates. Their economic independence and legal rights were exceptional for the ancient world, demonstrating a dynamic aspect of Egyptian society often overlooked. Alex, now let's turn to some of those incredible secret stories that offer a more intimate glimpse into this fascinating world, debunking some long-held myths along the way. Perhaps one of the most persistent myths about ancient Egypt is that the pyramids were built exclusively by slave labor, often depicted as suffering masses under the lash. While forced labor and prisoners of war were certainly utilized in various capacities throughout Egyptian history, the primary workforce behind the monumental structures like the Great Pyramids were skilled, paid laborers. How do we know this? Thanks to archaeological discoveries like the village of Deir el-Medina. This was a dedicated settlement for the artisans and workers who constructed and decorated the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings and Queens. Excavations at Deir el-Medina have unearthed a treasure trove of information about their daily lives, their homes, tools, contracts, even their laundry lists and love letters written on ostraca, ceramic shards used for casual writing. These weren't slaves. They were highly skilled craftsmen, stonecutters, sculptors, painters, scribes, who were well-fed, housed, and received regular rations, including beer and fresh produce. They had their own community, their own justice system, even their own workers' unions, which occasionally went on strike for better working conditions or delayed payments. Yes, ancient Egyptian workers went on strike. This level of organization and agency completely overturns the image of silent, brutalized slaves. It reveals a complex society with a recognized working class capable of collective action. Alex, another secret story lies in the sophisticated medical knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. Forget the popular image of crude practices. Egyptian physicians were remarkably advanced. We have surgical instruments resembling modern tools, evidence of dental work, broken bones set with splints, and even early forms of prosthetics, like artificial toes. Their knowledge of anatomy, gained through mummification, combined with an extensive pharmacopoeia of herbs and natural remedies, made them highly sought after. Kings from neighboring lands would send for Egyptian doctors to treat their ailments. This wasn't just magic or superstition, it was empirical observation and practical skill, a testament to their scientific curiosity. Think about the sheer ingenuity involved. For a civilization thousands of years ago to understand the human body well enough to perform complex surgeries, to address pain, and to mend injuries with such skill, it's truly astounding.
And what about the everyday lives of ordinary Egyptians? Beyond the grand temples and pharaohs, there was a vibrant, bustling society. People lived in mud brick homes, ate bread and beer, fished in the Nile, and grew crops. They had families, celebrated festivals, and worried about their children. Their personal lives were rich with emotions, humor, and domestic concerns, much like our own. The secrets here are simply the profound humanity of these individuals, often overshadowed by the monumental scale of their achievements. They enjoyed board games like Senet, told stories, and adorned themselves with jewelry and cosmetics. Their obsession, if you can call it that, wasn't with death, but with eternal life. Mummification and elaborate tombs weren't about morbid fascination. They were meticulous preparations for a vibrant afterlife, a continuation of their earthly existence in a perfected form. This desire for eternal well-being extended to commoners too, not just pharaohs, with various levels of mummification available depending on one's means. So what does this journey from the metaphor of slave to pharaoh reveal? It shows us an ancient Egypt that was far more fluid, more dynamic, and more human than we often imagine. It was a society where skill and intellect were highly valued, allowing individuals like Imhotep to achieve legendary status. Literacy was a path to power, opening doors for scribes to rise through the administrative ranks. Workers had rights and agency, debunking the myth of solely slave-built pyramids. Sophisticated knowledge flourished in medicine, architecture, and engineering. The lives of ordinary people mattered, with their own concerns, joys, and aspirations for the afterlife. The secret stories aren't always about forgotten kings or hidden treasures. Sometimes they're about the everyday resilience, ingenuity, and ambition of the people who shaped this incredible civilization. Ancient Egypt continues to captivate us, not just with its mysteries, but with the echoes of its humanity, reminding us that even in the most ancient of times, the human spirit's quest for purpose, meaning, and a lasting legacy endured. Music fades in gently. That's all for this episode of Echoes of the Nile. I hope you've enjoyed uncovering these incredible facets of ancient Egyptian life with me. What other myths about ancient Egypt would you like us to explore? Let us know on social media. Join us next time as we continue our exploration into the captivating past. Until then, keep digging into history. Music swells and fades out.